So the next question is, what was school like? Good and bad points. So, do you not really remember, did you say, your first school? What was your first school?
I think it was quite healthy sort of atmosphere for youngish people up to 11.
Mm-hmm.
And they got me through the exam, obviously.
Yeah.
You know, they gave me enough.
Do you know what the school was called?
Mary Street.
Yeah.
School.
Was it both boys and girls or just boys?
I think it was both. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm not certain.
Yeah.
The other one was boys only, the secondary school.
And what was the secondary school called?
Central. No.
Yeah.
Was it Central? Central Secondary School.
Yeah, I think so.
Mm.
Yeah. So what were the... So did you have to pass an exam to get into that school then?
Yeah. What sort?
Was it like a grammar school?
Well, it was. It counted as a grammar school, I
Yeah.
think. Yes, you had to take... I think it was 2 days to the exam
Mm-hmm.
to take. I get mixed up, forgive me,
It's alright.
with how to get from the school, the young, very small school,
Mm-hmm.
up to the other one, or
Yeah.
whether there were written exams. There must have been something, mustn't there?
Yeah. If it was like a grammar school, then you had to pass something.
It was looked on as a grammar school, this particular.
Yeah.
It was a small school, because Philip Rowley went to a larger one. I think it was in 5 Ways
Yeah.
in Birmingham. So he didn't come to the same school as me.
Yeah. So you don't remember anybody in your primary school going to the second school you went to?
I'm not sure that, I got mixed up with this chap, Leg,
Yeah.
which is his surname,
Mm.
but I don't think I knew Leg at St Mary Street School.
No.
Yeah, I think it's only
So he was from secondary school too?
after I was 11
Yeah.
that I got interested in him and went to his home, and he came with me as well.
Yeah. So we'll briefly talk about the primary school, because I know you don't remember that much about it.
Mm.
But what do you remember about the classes and that sort of thing at the school?
At the
At the primary school?
primary school, I think they were mixed. I was rather happy in my own way
Yeah.
that it was pleasant
Mm.
to have somebody talk to you about things and make you do things,
Yeah.
that meant something or appeared to mean something.
Mm.
But we had written you take home and homework towards the end, before I came to the 11 point, where you worked your way through a whole series of bits on the thing.
Yeah, to pass the exam.
I suppose that was it,
Yeah.
Very vague, isn't I?
Was there a playground at the school?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, quite a big one. And there was underneath the school you could go to out of the bad weather.
Yeah.
Underneath.
Was it?
And I saw an airship go over. That's something I saw. Is it R101?
I don't know, but
No.
if you say so.
R101. It was a bloody big thing.
Mm.
I remember being in the playground and seeing this.
Yeah.
I think it was R101 was the number of the thing, but a massive thing going fairly low. About 1,000 foot at the most, sort of thing.
Yeah. So I suppose you don't remember any of the teachers, do you?
I think we didn't switch around a lot.
No, you stuck to one teacher.
Yeah, and he seemed a very pleasant man, you know, and knew what he was talking about. Well, that was the impression.
Yeah.
I had nothing to be ashamed of.
So he wasn't like a nasty teacher or anything?
No, he didn't strike me as being particularly nasty.
No.
But he was very busy.
Yeah.
Mm.
So let's move on to the school you more remember, the secondary school. So what do you remember about the classes and stuff in
Well, the classes were... How big? 300 of us. I think the classes were only about 25 boys, something of that size, and you had different teachers
for different
subjects, including French, one of the languages, you know.
What subjects were you taught?
I remember the French part, you know, the language part, and I learned schoolboy French, not very well advanced. Useful, but not terribly well advanced. And there was another bloke, I think he taught French at a higher level that I didn't reach or something. But he may have lived in France.
Yeah.
One of the teachers. What else did we do?
I assume you'd have done English and maths.
Oh yes, the usual. You know, what you'd expect from a grammar school, would you? You know, fairly well advanced, I would say.
Yeah.
So, because I had to, when I joined the RAF at 15 and a half, I think I had to take an exam to do that.
Yeah.
A couple of days, you know, to do that, and I wouldn't. In fact, people failed it.
Yeah.
Who I would have expected to pass, and I was either lucky or I don't know, but I was fairly near the front of the queue at that. So I must have learned a fair amount of maths and you know, that sort of.
So what would you say was your favourite subject and your least favourite?
I think of the subjects, you know, maths and physics. Physics. Is that a subject?
Yes. It's part of science, Yeah, physics, biology and chemistry.
But very much on the physics side of it, I think, was I was keen on.
Yeah. Why is that?
Well, it seemed a practical approach to living, you know, for as you got older, as you were getting up to 15, you know, you realise that you have to know something to get anywhere, and I feel that although it was only a small school and all boys, you know, that it was pretty good.
Yeah.
But it was different teachers for different subjects.
Yeah. Do you remember a particular teacher that stands out? Do you?
The only one that's crossing my mind at the moment is this bloke who taught French, but I wasn't in that class. So it doesn't get you very far, does it?
Not to worry. I remember reading that a guy from the RAF came, and that's what made you decide to join the RAF. So what?
This chap, a bloke called Marshall, and he was about perhaps as much as 12 months older than me, something like that.
Yeah.
And had left school to join the RAF as an aircraft apprentice.
Yeah.
You know, for a 3-year course, and he came back to visit the school while he was on leave, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I hadn't even thought about joining the RAF till I met him.
Had you thought about anything else you'd want to do before that? Before thinking about joining the RAF, was there anything you wanted to do?
No, I think I was a bit gormless.
You weren't sure what you wanted to do?
No, I knew I'd got to go till I was 16, and that most people got a job.
Yeah.
You know, of some sort, but I hadn't thought about I was intrigued by flying. I think I used to go out on my bike to Castle Bromwich, which was a club then.
Yeah.
They took over making Spitfires during the Second World War.
Mm-hmm.
And my eldest brother, Albert,
yeah,
he was interested in Castle Bromwich, if you know what I mean, although he didn't get sent there, but they offered him a job in Australia.
Yeah.
But he couldn't take his wife, so he didn't go. Even though he didn't think much of it, I don't think.
Why is that?
I don't know. Well, she wasn't what you might call glamour pants,
Right.
if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
She was. I remember where she lived. Not so very far from us, but he must have been my brother, Albert.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I imagine he either must have had sex with her or something of that sort.
Yeah.
That linked him to her.
Yeah.
That he couldn't very well scrub round it like.
Had to make an honest woman out of it.
Yeah, he didn't produce a kiddie, I don't think.
Oh, right.
But they did have a kiddie later on, Aubrey, who was very clever. I don't know whether she's still living or not now, because she's getting on, she wrote to me once or twice.
Yeah.
But then the bloke she married was from Bromsgrove. Sorry, I'm meandering on that.
All right.
But anyhow, he packed her in and found somebody else to live with, and she went off and lived on her own.
Mm-hmm.
But I haven't been in touch for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah. So going back to the school. So you didn't really know what you wanted to do when you grew up, but you were visiting this aerodrome nearby on your bicycle before this man visited the school.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it was because I was keen on watching the aircraft fly. There was only club aircraft, all biplanes, you know.
Yeah.
But because of that, when he came to visit the school, whether he said to the headmaster that he was interested in seeing anybody who wanted air stuff, because I'd never advertised the fact, I don't think, you know, that I was...
Did he talk to the whole school or just a select few?
But I don't think he didn't give a big speech like to.
So it's just a few of you.
It's just a few of us, and anyhow, I think they must have sent for me, probably because I must have mentioned going to Castle Bromwich to watch the club flying.
Yeah.
And we were talking. He introduced us what he did, and because he was in the middle of his 3 years, or he'd done 1 year or something like this.
Yeah.
And he said you'd have to get permission at my age, because he was a bit older than I was, and he said I enjoyed. You know, he persuaded me that it's a good life, you know.
Yeah, because the RAF, I suppose in that era, was quite an elitist institution, wasn't it?
Well, it was the beginning of, or just as I joined the RAF as a boy.
Yeah.
Well, no, they didn't call them boys, they were aircraft apprentices, AAs.
Yeah.
And around that time, they were increasing the numbers, and quite vividly. It must have been, it would be 15 and a half, I'd be...
So it was in the mid-1930s?
January 35.
Because Hitler came to power in 1933, so they would have been starting to suspect there could be something
weren't
coming up.
well equipped.
Yeah.
We weren't.
Yeah.
And I think that might have been the reason.
So they started to let...
for that chap come to see us, you know.
Yeah.
To tell us what it was like there. But there's no doubt that they began a recruitment push somewhere around 1935 or thereabouts. I didn't expect a war, obviously, another war.
I was going to ask you, did you think there was anything you're going to get sent to war anytime soon when you joined at 15? Were your parents concerned about you?
Well, I think the most important thing I remember, if I can just digress a little bit, is that I spoke to my old man who'd been in the services during the First World War.
So was he in the army, was he?
And then yes, army, but he was a sergeant major. He'd been in the territorials, I think, you know.
Yeah.
And he had to come out because he was injured. And then he went on teaching how to fire guns and things, you know, gun practice. But he packed it in when he was about, I think it was about 1917. He had to pack it in because his back was playing him up. Yeah. And eventually he left the armed forces altogether, like that. Yeah. But I wasn't born then, of course.
So he was quite old. Was he quite old during the Great War? How old was he?
Oh well, he wasn't. He certainly wasn't in uniform.
No.
No, he must have
been in his 40s, was he?
Oh, he was over that, I think, because I was old enough. Yeah. Although I was joined the RAF with no intention of going to war. Yeah. I was about 20 when war broke out, I should say. 20 and a bit. Yeah. Somewhere around there. I must have been about 20 when the war broke out, and I was the youngest of all the children. And he wasn't. He'd already left the services because of this trouble with his back and so forth. No, he'd be older than that, I think. I suspect. When did the war break out? 39, wasn't it? And he must have been getting on for 40 before I was born, I should imagine. Yeah. So, you know, there's quite a bit, isn't it? He must have been getting on. By the time the Second War broke out, I think he must have been getting on 59 or 60, you know, something like that.
So, when you decided to take the exams, did your parents say anything about it?
Well, I told him. My dad laughed when I told him about it, because I'd listened to this bloke and I thought, that's good. So I spoke to my father about thinking of joining the rap, you know, cocky sort of thing. And he said, I'll never take you. And I said, oh, well, I'll write for the bump. And I wrote and got a booklet, only a paper booklet, which for apprentices, you know.
Yeah.
And I read all that, and I saw my old man and began to think. I said something to him. I said, I think I'll join the rap, like it says.
Yeah.
And he said, oh, I doubt if you'll do any good with that lot. So I said, well, that makes me mind up. And I said, I'll join.
Yeah. Well, did your mum say anything?
Not especially, I don't think. She, I think she was quite happy for me to do what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And I was the youngest of the lot, so.
Okay. So, just one last thing, going back to school. Other than the classes, were there any activities you did after school with the school? Any sports, for example, that sort of thing?
Well, as I say, I played rugby football in the winter.
Yeah.
And then there weren't so many cricket teams out of 300 blokes for some reason. And we played a bit of cricket, but not much. And somebody picked this up from it. It was a Yankee-fied effort of rounders. I forget what they called it, but it was, you had a shaped stick as a bat. You know, it was a narrowed in play.
Yeah.
And you struck the ball, and if you could, you then run. And if they could hit you before you got to the first or the next, the one you're running at, you'd be out. And I played that with them, with quite a few people, because I didn't do very well at cricket, I don't think.
Yeah.
You know, I wasn't one of the chosen.
No.
There were a few that were very good, I think, but there's only 300 boys. It's
quite a small school, isn't it? 300.
Oh, very small.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.